Ladies and gents, my name is Xander, aka Deicide, and in this video, I got my top 5 PvP weapon archetypes that have just come out within the Forsaken DLC. As you all know, we have just gotten this brand new TTK update that came a little bit early for the Forsaken DLC, and with that, my friends, I have so much phenomenal and marvelous information to share with you because all these weapons that I'm about to show you right now have improved drastically from what they were just a couple of weeks ago. Before we go any further, I've got to let you guys know that all the information I'm discussing within this video is only pertaining to pulse rifles, auto rifles, scout rifles, and hand cannons. I'm not looking at SMGs, nor am I looking at sidearm archetypes, and the reason why that is because shotguns and fused rifles are prevalent just about every single place that you're going, which is the exact same ranges in which sidearms and SMGs are prevalent in. Understanding that, the very next thing that I've got to discuss is that all the TTKs associated within this video have been done by looking at all the weapons and their footages in a frame-by-frame analysis, also known as frames per bullet. This is the most precise way to actually get a weapon's optimal time to kill, and so all the values that you guys are about to see is being done with that method, and so if you have a different method or different ideology that you use, just note that there could be a few differences, but nonetheless, everything that you're about to see, I can guarantee, is done with 100% accuracy via this bullet per frames methodology. The only other thing I want to add here is that at the very end of the video, when we do a little bit of a recap, I'm going to be showing you guys all the weapons TTKs via all their archetypes. So that includes the high impact, the adaptive, the lightweight, and the rapid fire, not just for pulse rifles, but for auto rifles, scout rifles, and hand cannons as well. The only thing left to do is to see what kind of astounding characteristics that all these archetypes have, so eviscerate that subscribe button, and let's jump right into the video. Before we can even get into my top 5 list, I've got to mention a special honorable mention archetype here, and that is dealing with the J-Rabbit archetype, also known as the high impact archetype. Previously, in all of Destiny 2 of Year 1, this J-Rabbit archetype could only 4-tap, and so was doing a very consistent optimal headshot TTK at 1.2 seconds. But the good news for all of us here is that the J-Rabbit and all of the weapons in this exact same archetype can 3-tap Guardians at exactly 66 points of damage in the head, which is then going to associate to a 0.8 second optimal headshot TTK. For all of you Scout Rifle fans, and in particular to my very good friend Polka Dot Ninja, you, my friend, are going to be very happy as this J-Rabbit has now become much more viable, not just for far, but even for mid and some potentially close range engagements, making these things 10 times more competitive in PvP. However, the downside to this archetype is that you have got to land those critical headshots, because even if you happen to miss 1 or 2 critical headshots, then the time to kill on this archetype goes up through the roof and almost makes it no longer usable. Nonetheless, this archetype with the J-Rabbit can easily 3-tap, and for that one reason alone, it definitely makes this honorable mention spot. Arriving in the number 5 spot is some auto rifle archetypes, 2 of which are tied, and the reason why that is because their TTKs are so unbelievably close that you can't ignore one without having the other in there as well. And so these 2 archetypes consist of the precision frame archetype along with the adaptive frame archetype too. For those of you that don't know, the precision frame archetype auto rifles are the ones that consist of the Uriel's Gift along with the positive outlook and other weapons like that, as those things have a rate of fire of 450 rounds per minute. On the other hand, we have the adaptive frame archetype, and those weapons consist of the duty bound or the Scathelocke or something else along those lines, and have a rate of fire of 600 rounds per minute. Taking a quick step back and just looking at the positive outlook in this precision frame archetype, this weapon is doing 26 points of damage in the head, which is then going to associate to a 0.93 optimal headshot TTK, and it's only going to require 8 critical headshots to achieve this. In all of Destiny 2 in Year 1, this is a huge and drastic improvement, as before, whenever you had Kill Clip active, this was actually the optimal headshot TTK that you could achieve. But now with Kill Clip and this brand new update, the positive outlook is then doing 34 points of damage in the head, and it can actually obtain a 0.67 optimal headshot TTK when Kill Clip is active. My friends, this is exceptional news for all of you out there, as auto rifles are extremely easy to use, since the only thing that you gotta do is just simply hold on the trigger and make sure that your aim is on point. As long as you can do that, you're going to get this fantastic and glorious optimal headshot TTK. If you thought that that was good, I have some more phenomenal news for you, and that is because the duty bound and the archetype associated with it can now do an optimal headshot time to kill at 0.9 seconds. This is actually 0.03 seconds faster than that of the Positive Outlook or the Hero's Gift, and so what I really want you to keep in mind here is that you might be thinking to yourself, well, that's only a little bit faster and it's not going to make that big of a difference. But to you, I say this, and it's going to make a huge difference as that actually equates to 1 or 2 more bullets. Just having those 1 or 2 extra bullets that it takes to down a Guardian with the Positive Outlook or Hero's Gift could make the difference between winning and losing an engagement if you're using the duty bound instead. On top of that, I happen to test some more stuff with the duty bound as this thing has Rampage, and so as soon as I happen to get Rampage to proc once, the optimal headshot on this weapon goes down by 0.1 to make it at 0.8 seconds on the dot. Unfortunately, there is no adaptive frame auto rifle that has kill clip, and so I couldn't quite make the comparison with the ones like Hero's Gift and Positive Outlook, but just keep in mind that with random rolls coming around, that is definitely going to be the case, and I have no doubt that a few of us are certainly going to get kill clip on these duty bounds and skate locks, and so be on the lookout for that, because I can assure you that those types of weapons are going to dominate and eradicate in the Crucible. Appearing in the number 4 spot is another 2 weapon archetypes, but in this case they happen to be scout rifles. And those 2 archetypes are the lightweight frame along with the rapid fire frame archetypes. And the reason why this is because these 2 classes can down Guardians very easily, and they can do so in a multitude of ways in almost the exact same amount of time for each archetype. First off the bat, we have the lightweight frame archetype, and these types of weapons consist of the Mighty Multi-Tool, the Mannanin, and the Pleiades Corrector, or something else along those lines, and all of which have a rate of fire at 200 rounds per minute. This kind of rate of fire implies that the weapon archetype only needs 4 critical headshots to actually down somebody, as each shot can do 51 points of damage in the head, and this is then going to associate to a 0.9 second optimal headshot TTK. Furthermore, I did some testing in this exact same archetype with the Pleiades Corrector, as this thing has Rampage, and every single time that you happen to get a kill, it's going to do 56 points of damage in the head, which isn't going to make that big of a difference in the weapon's optimal headshot TTK, but it could make the difference in a team shot battle, and that's something that you definitely gotta keep in mind. In association with this, I also did some testing with the Niflheim Frost, and although that archetype of weapon is not classified as a lightweight frame, but rather it's a precision frame, I still want to mention this here, and that's because it does 55 points damage in the head, whereas the Mida and the Pleiades Corrector does 51. Keeping that in mind, the Niflheim Frost has kill clip, and with kill clip, that thing can do 73 points of damage in the head, which means that it can be a 3-shot weapon on a very consistent basis and get an optimal headshot TTK at 0.67 seconds. Unfortunately, there is no weapon in this lightweight frame archetype that actually has kill clip as the game stands. But with random rolls returning, I guarantee you that we're definitely going to have something that is going to have kill clip, and when it does, that TTK is going to be even faster and better on this archetype, not just because of the weapon's rate of fire, but also because it's very lenient to go ahead and miss a couple shots here or there and still achieve the weapon's optimal headshot TTK. With kill clip on a Pleiades Corrector or a Mannanin, that could potentially bring the weapon's optimal headshot TTK somewhere to around 0.5 or possibly 0.6 seconds, and if that's the case, these things are truly going to shred Guardians and make them look like Swiss cheese. Having said that, the other weapon archetype that cannot be overlooked here is the rapid fire frame scout rifle archetype, and those weapons consist of something like the Black Scorpion or the Frostmire's Hex, which have a rate of fire at 260 rounds per minute. Associated with this rate of fire is a damage output of 45 points of damage in the head, which is then going to correspond to exactly a 0.93 second optimal headshot TTK. The weapon in this archetype is only going to need 4 critical headshots and 1 body shot to actually obtain this, and because this weapon's archetype fires bullets so unbelievably fast, you're going to run through them extremely quick, and that's where you're going to have a very fast reload speed. Luckily for us, the good news here is that the rapid fire frame archetype actually increased the weapon's reload speed by approximately 50% whenever the magazine is empty, and that comes as an intrinsic perk. The only other thing that I want to mention here is that this rapid fire frame archetype could potentially become the most lethal as soon as you happen to get some other damage bonusing perks like kill clip or rampage. Unfortunately, we have nothing in this game in this archetype that's going to have that kind of perk option right now. but random rolls is returning, and with that, rest assured that we're certainly going to see some god rolls in this archetype, so be sure that you're looking out for those, because these things are truly going to tear Guardians like they're a part of some shredded cheese. Ensuing in the number 3 spot is 2 additional weapon archetypes, but in this case they happen to be pulse rifles, and they consist of the high impact along with the adaptive frame archetypes, one of which is very high skilled and requires you to land critical headshot at the critical headshot, where the other is still a little bit more lenient and can still get just as good of a TTK, if not even better. Let's begin by discussing the high impact frame pulse rifle archetype, and weapons that are considered to be in this one are the Rebrix's Claymore, also known as the Rebrix's Broadsword from the Forsaken DLC, along with the Relentless, which is one of the pulse rifles from Trials. Both the Claymore or the Broadsword, along with the Relentless, have a rate of fire of 340 rounds per minute. Now you might be thinking to yourself, Xander, this is incredibly slow, and what the heck are you even thinking? Well, my friends, math doesn't lie, and actually this archetype has the best base TTK out of any weapons on this entire list at 0.67 seconds. But in order for you to obtain this, you've got to land every single critical headshot to be that, a critical headshot. Now I'm not going to lie to you, this is certainly not a very easy thing to do, but does it reward a very skilled hand? The answer is resounding 110% yes. So if you guys can land those critical headshots, this thing is going to be absolutely astounding and truly obliterate Guardians like there's no tomorrow. However, if you happen to miss those critical headshots and land body shots, then the weapon's body shot TTK goes through the roof and makes this thing almost completely null and void. But in the case of the Rebrix's Claymore, hitting headshots is only going to reward you even more so, and that's because that thing has Desperado, and when you get Desperado to be active, the weapon's optimal headshot TTK goes down even more so to be at 0.43 seconds. Yes, my friends, you heard me right, and I know that your ears are working perfectly fine. The Rebrix's Claymore, also known as the Rebrix's Broadsword, has an optimal headshot TTK when Desperado is active at 0.43 seconds, which is the best optimal headshot TTK out of any other weapon in this entire game that we know of so far. Knowing this knowledge, you guys can clearly see that the high impact pulse rifle archetype is going to reward a very skilled hand. And so if I was you guys, I would definitely try and practice with these things as fast as I possibly could, because I can guarantee you that that practice is definitely going to pay off and make the enemy team a little bit salty. Moving on to the next archetype that's also in this number 3 spot is one that's called the Adaptive Frame Pulse Rifle archetype, and weapons that are classified to be in this are the Inaugural Address or the Last Perdition, and they have a rate of fire at 390 rounds per minute. The beautiful and glorious thing about this particular archetype is that it still allows you to miss a couple of shots here and there, regardless of whether or not they're either headshots or body shots. What I mean by this is that the weapon's optimal headshot TTK is at 0.93 seconds, which is phenomenal all on its own. But like I said from before, you can still miss a couple shots here and there because it only requires a total of 7 shots to actually down a Guardian. 6 of those have to be critical headshots, and 1 of them has to be a body shot. But no matter how that you look at this, you're still going to have to fire 3 overall bursts. And so you can actually get a couple body shots here and there within those 3 bursts and still obtain this optimal headshot TTK or come very close to it. In association with this, I have no doubt that many of you are using this Inaugural Address, and that's because this beautiful monstrosity has kill clip. And when kill clip is active on this Adaptive Frame Pulse Rifle, the weapon's optimal headshot TTK goes down to 0.53 seconds, which is almost a half a second on the dot. Knowing that and the weapon's overall leniency, you guys can obviously see as to why this weapon easily makes the number 3 spot, and that's because it has one of the best optimal headshot TTKs, regardless of whether or not you're actually landing critical headshots or body shots, and when you incorporate kill clip on top of this thing is just going to plow through Guardians like a bulldozer calling Ramrod. Making themselves known in the number 2 spot is arguably some of the most high-skilled end weapons throughout this entire game, regardless of whether or not you're looking at Destiny 1 or Destiny 2, and that's the lightweight / adaptive frame hand cannon archetypes. The good news for all of us is that regardless of which archetype that you're looking at, either the lightweight frame or the adaptive frame, both of them can now 3-tap, but the way in which they do so is very different, and let me explain exactly how. Looking at the lightweight frame hand cannons first, you've got to know that these types of weapons consist of the Dire Promise or the Midnight Coup, and you can make an argument either way that one of these two hand cannons is the best out of all the hand cannons in this entire game. No matter how that you perceive this to be, both of them still have a rate of fire at 150 rounds per minute, and in association with this rate of fire is an optimal headshot TTK at 0.8 seconds, which is going to require exactly 3 critical headshots to achieve this. The amazing thing about this lightweight frame archetype is that not only does it have the best overall optimal headshot TTK out of any other hand cannon archetype in this game, but I personally believe that they have the best overall shot rhythm, which is then going to allow them to obtain this optimal headshot TTK much more frequently. Of course, this always differs from one Guardian onto the next, and that's what leads me into my next archetype that also reaches this number 2 spot, and that's the adaptive frame hand cannon archetype. Weapons like the Barra Devils, the DFA, and the Old Fashioned are all in this exact same hand cannon archetype, and like the Dire Promise and the Midnight Coup, arguments could also be made that one of these 3 is the best in the game. Nonetheless, all these weapons have a rate of fire at 140 rounds per minute, and in association with this, that's then going to lead to a 3 critical headshot optimal TTK at exactly 0.87 seconds. Both the Midnight Coup and the DFA have Rampage, and even if you happen to get Rampage to proc once on either one of these weapons, their optimal headshot TTK isn't going to change. But what is going to change is that now they're going to require 2 critical headshots and 1 body shot to obtain their optimal TTKs. Now with the Old Fashioned and Kill Clip, that could be a little bit of a difference. And the reason why I say this is because if you happen to have a Guardian that has absolutely 0 resilience, which is probably not going to be the case, almost never, but nevertheless, I still have to mention this, and that's because if they do happen to have that kind of resilience, the Old Fashioned and the Adaptive Frame archetype is going to be able to 2-tap a Guardian, as it can do so by 93 points of damage in the head, which is then going to correlate to a 0.43 seconds optimal headshot TTK. Another great question to ask here is that even going to be possible for someone like the Dire Promise or the Midnight Coup? At this point in time, no one can say for 110% of certainty, but what I can say is that I have seen some other weapons in this game that have dropped with random rolls from that of the Forsaken DLC, and those things have some very unique and interesting perks that have a nice correlation between Rampage and one that increases the rate of fire, and so if that's the case, this Midnight Coup and Dire Promise, or even the DFA / Old Fashioned with those kinds of perks, could be the most dominant hand cannons in this entire game, easily making one of these 2 archetypes emancipate Guardians via that crispy 3-tap, or potentially also sweet and juicy 2-tap. At long last, we have finally reached the number 1 spot, and to not disappoint, I have once again obtained 2 potential archetypes that I truly do believe are going to eradicate, obliterate, and absolutely eviscerate Guardians to the Netherrealm, and that's because these things are so astoundingly powerful as to how fast they melt Guardians, as it's like a hot knife through butter, and that is not an exaggeration. The 2 archetypes that I'm referring to are the lightweight frame and the rapid fire frame pulse rifle archetypes, each of which can be made the number 1 archetype, and that's because not only do these things have almost identical optimal headshot TTKs, but the way in which they can obtain an even faster TTK is the most astonishing thing of all, and exactly how that is what we're going to get into right now. After analyzing the lightweight frame archetype, these are the ones that surprise me the most, and they consist of weapons like the Nightshade or the Infinite Path 8, and the reason why these things were so astounding is because in the previous Warmind DLC, these things were just mediocre at best. But now, at a rate of fire at 450 rounds per minute, these things can actually obtain an optimal headshot TTK at 0.87 seconds, and it's going to require 8 critical headshots to achieve this. Just to kind of put that into perspective for you, this optimal headshot TTK is actually faster than that of the inaugural dress, and it's on par with that of the Barra Devils or the DFA or the Old Fashioned in terms of the weapon's base TTK. Doing 25 points of damage for every single shot as a critical headshot with that kind of TTK isn't too shabby to say in the least, but where things get even more unbelievable is when Kill Clip is active on the Nightshade. And when that happens to be the case, the weapon does 33 points of damage in the head, and it can attain a 0.53 seconds optimal headshot TTK. My friends, that is almost half a second on the dot, and it only requires 2 bursts to actually obtain this, just the same way that the Claymore does or the Relentless does, but it has a much faster rate of fire, still allowing for a huge margin of leniency to actually miss a couple of shots here and there and still obtain or come close to the weapon's optimal TTK, melting Guardians almost instantly. As powerful as that lightweight frame archetype is, I've gotta say that there's actually one that's even more powerful, and that is the rapid fire frame archetype of Pulse Rifle. And the weapons that are considered to be in this archetype are the Darkest of 4 and the Time Worn Spire, along with that the Lincoln Green. All the weapons that I just mentioned have a rate of fire at 540 rounds per minute and can do 22 points of damage in the head with every single shot. This rate of fire is by all means the fastest out of any other pulse rifle in this entire game, aside from the Rerix's Broadsword or the Rerix's Claymore when Desperado is active at 600 rounds per minute. Knowing that, it's going to take this rapid fire frame archetype exactly 3 bursts to down a Guardian, and it's going to require all critical headshots to do so, but when it does, it gets an optimal headshot TTK at 0.8 seconds, which is even faster than that of the Nightshade and its base TTK at 0.87 seconds. Unlike the Nightshade, the Darkest of 4 footage that you guys are seeing right now doesn't have kill clip, and so I couldn't quite test as to how kill clip or even that of Rampage was going to be proccing on this particular archetype of weapon, but rest assured that when the Forsaken DLC hits, this archetype and Pulse Rifle is definitely going to have at least some kind of kill clip or Rampage perk, or possibly even a perk that increases the weapon's rate of fire. And if that's the case, this archetype is also going to be crispy, juicy, and so Gucci. Ladies and gents, there you have it, and I hope you enjoyed my top 5 brand new PvP weapon archetypes come the Forsaken DLC. As promised, you guys can see right there on your screen all the TTKs for all the archetypes of weapons that I tested, which included pulse rifles, scout rifles, hand cannons, and auto rifles. I've also included a resilience/HP chart that you guys can see on the right side there that is meant for a beneficial aspect so that you guys can understand as to exactly what kind of HP is in association with the resilience. Note that in almost every single one of these cases, I had a resilience of at least 9 at 198 HP. I'm very intrigued to hear all your guys' thoughts on this entire top 5 list and which archetypes that you think are going to be fantastic, exceptional, superb, terrible, horrendous, or despicable. And no matter what the case may be, just keep in mind that Random Rolls is returning, and so all these things could be flipped on top of their head, or they could become better than what they already are. Lastly, go ahead and check out some of my other new videos, as you guys can see right there on the screen. If you happen to enjoy this one, then you're definitely going to enjoy those as well. That's pretty much all I've got for you as of right now, and so as always, deislayers, great gaming, until next time.